I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Metal Rules, we are speaking with Shawn Drover and Joe Dibiase of the band Withering Scorn to talk about the release of their new album, Prophets of Demise, that came out earlier this month of July. Guys, welcome, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I really like the album. It's a lot. But before we talk about the album, tell me a little about the origins of the band, how it all came together. You were playing with your brother, too.
Right. I mean, really, it started with the pandemic. I mean, like everything else, the music industry for touring was shut down, So yeah. Glenn had just said, why don't we, since we can't really do anything, nobody's doing anything, why don't we, he has a recording studio and set up for Pro Tools, said, why don't we start writing some songs and, see where that leads us and stuff. So we started doing that. And not long after, we said, well, who do we want to play bass and who do we want to sing? And Joe was, the first name on our list because Joe had, and Henning had performed on Glenn's previous solo record called Walls of Blood. Mm-hmm. So Glenn already started a relationship with Joe and Henning and knew they were set up with Pro Tools, which is really important thing because, again, remember, you couldn't go to a recording studio because everything was shut down. So we're all kind of self-contained in the way that we can record music and share files and stuff. So once Joe was on board and Henning got on board, we just worked on and off on the record for 3 years.
Wow.
Well, life gets in the way. Everybody has things that they're doing and all that stuff. So when we had time to do so, we would work on some stuff. And anyway, after 3 years, we finally had the record mixed and we started shopping it around. And really within, I think within 2 weeks or so, Frontiers Records out of Italy made us a solid offer, so we signed with them, and here we are. So the record just dropped July 7th, and we're real proud of it.
So were you guys all doing it like via internet, like you were sending files to each other, or were you ever live doing it?
No, it was on the all through the internet and stuff. Okay. So I would record a drum track for a tune, and then Glenn would record a guitar track. And once that was done, we would send it to Joe to do bass.
Yeah.
And while Joe was doing bass, I was writing lyrics for Henning to sing. And then we just, once Joe and Henning would start doing their thing, Glenn and I would, jump to the next song when we were ready for that. And just kind of that was kind of the process really was, was drums first, guitars, then we would send it to Joe. And like I said, when Joe was doing his bass tracks, I would, work on lyrics for Henning and, he would send a vocal track back when he could, and off to the next song. So it's
incredible.
It was pretty. It's pretty common nowadays. Yeah. It's not, it's not difficult for a band, musicians from different parts of the globe to do a record together.
It's not difficult, but it's not done as well as what you guys did. I get a lot of albums and I get a lot of music, and it sounds like very disjointed, and you guys were clearly, it sounded like the production was really like spot on, where you guys were all in the same room. I would have taken it that way, working on it.
We were definitely all very meticulous, starting with Glenn at being the producer. Because he is the one who makes all the sounds together, and he's very meticulous. Any little thing, he doesn't let anything slide as far as sloppiness and playing, and make sure we get the parts 100% correct. And he's very, very good with the studio. He's had a studio for years, and he's really good. He made the album sound fantastic. Like you said, you can't tell that we never were in the same room playing that.
Yeah,
and you're right. A lot of times when albums are made, you can tell. Yeah, but not. I thought he did a great job putting it together.
I agree. The title track, "Prophets of Demise," is one of the best opening tracks of an album I've heard in a long time. Was it an obvious choice to be the lead track and the title of the album?
For me,
go ahead, Joe. You take that one.
I think so. I mean, me and Shawn kind of put the order of the album together, and we both immediately said "Prophets of Demise" is an obvious opener. Just starts off with them all apart and then kicks you right in the face, so it's opener. And I think also as far as the title of the record, it was also kind of obvious. Normally we'll pick a song from the album for the title, and that was again obvious to us.
Yeah.
Well, we both thought the same thing.
How about the title of the band, the name of the band? How'd you guys come up with that? It's pretty unique.
That was the hardest part of doing the record. I mean,
the pandemic was easy compared to naming the band, right?
The pandemic was much easier. I mean, Joe would come up with a list of 10 names and send it on email, and what about this name? Oh, yeah, I like that. Oh, Glenn doesn't like that name. Well, then I would come up with a list, 3 people would like it and the other one would hate it. So it's like, we just went on, until, it's like, look, we really got to come up with a name for the band. And I heard I heard the name Withering Scorn years ago on television. And somehow it just popped in my head. I'm like, that's kind of a neat, it sounds metal, but it's a little bit different. So it's like, I said, what about this, guys? And everybody said, yeah, it's a pretty good name. So, but I mean, honestly, it really was a pain in the ass. I mean, or if the 3 of us, Joe, Glenn, and myself, said, yeah, that's a good name, we would look it up. And of course the band had the name. So it was like, dude, so anyway, it worked out well. I'm glad that's done now, that all, as a new band, we had to come up with so much stuff and all, even with the record, we had to get, just getting pictures done and all the, all this stuff. It was all, again, being a new band, it was all new to us again. So I'm glad a lot of, we've done a lot of things that we don't have to worry about a lot of things on the next one. So, but yeah, that was I'm glad we chose it, but man, we had so many names. You have no idea.
That's so funny. So I take it this isn't a project. This is a real band with hopes of moving forward for additional albums and touring and all that. Great. That's good news.
Absolutely. We signed a multi-record deal with Frontiers. But even if we hadn't, our plan all along was to keep going. As far as recording, I mean, we've already worked on a couple new tunes already. But we always felt this was a long-term project. And then when Frontiers, wanted a multi-record deal, it was perfect. As far as touring, that's kind of up in the air because touring is just so expensive these days.
Yes. With
the tour buses and fuel and the travel expenses. And every time you turn around, bands are getting hit with expenses on tour. And for us being in 3 different countries, just getting together right there, the logistics are kind of difficult. But what we're hoping for is if there's call for it, demand for it, maybe do some of the festivals in Europe, Wacken and those types of festivals. And even in the U.S. now is starting more and more of those festival type shows. Yeah. That's what we can, and hopefully that happens. But as far as a long 3-month tour, I don't know if it's financially feasible right now. It doesn't really make sense. Shawn, I think, would agree.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of artists like yourselves in similar situations. And one of the bands recently, they went from theater, club, whatever the case may be, and they rented equipment. So they only really took their guitars, and they didn't really take drums, and they didn't take amps. So it was just a guitar, a backup guitar, bass, and they toured around, and they'd get to the place and they'd rent the stuff, and it would be there waiting. So it was kind of helpful too, but expensive, to your point.
Yeah, the Weekend Warrior gigs, Yeah, I mean, it's so, just like Joe said, it's so difficult now since COVID, especially in Europe, well, everywhere, but in Europe, the price of petrol has doubled. The price for busing has doubled. Mm-hmm. There's, finding everybody and their grandmothers on tour now. So it's even hard to find crew guys because, again, 3 years of not touring with the pandemic, a lot of those guys had to find normal jobs, right? So they're not even, so it just really messed up our industry in so many ways. And now that this is all, a thing of the past, everybody is on tour, the price of everything has gone up so much. You see a lot of bands that, Anthrax canceled the European tour. I saw Sanctuary canceled a European anniversary tour they had a week or 2 ago. They can't, just a lot of bands again, no one wants to lose their ass financially. It's not good business. So it's like, do you want to go out there? For us, we're a new band, so most people don't even know who we are yet. So
Right.
for us to even consider that is not intelligent at this point. But like Joe suggested, if the Wacken Festival or God's Metal in Italy or whatever, if they come calling next year or the year after, if it's financially feasible, we'll certainly consider it. But we're in a holding pattern right now, so which is fine.
That's pretty cool. What I really caught me, I guess, hit me. The first thing that hit me with this album was your power, speed, and aggression of the drums. I mean, does that drumming impact the creative juices when the songs were coming up? Because you said you did the drums before the guitars. So is there demos with a guitar that you're working off of, or is it just drums first?
Well, I write most of the songs, so I was already familiar with them. But yeah, what we do is we have to set up a click track. Glenn will put, a scratch guitar track, which is, it's the song, but it's not keeper tracks, so it's, so I play along to that. I play to the click and Glenn's guitar, so I know where I'm at the song. So, but it's always been like that. We've been doing like that for almost 30 years. Glenn and I have been using that same procedure. So it was just business as usual for us,
What about pick up the pieces? That had to start with the drum. Did you start the drums and then he came up with the riff? Because that's a cool drum riff.
I'm trying to remember how that one went. I mean, most of the time, yeah. I mean, like I said, I wrote most of those songs. So that one I wrote. So yeah, I just came up with, sometimes I'll say, okay, the guitar should start this song. The other song we should all start together. Another one I'll start drums, just to kind of mix it up and keep it interesting for me and the guys, just so it doesn't always start the same or sound the same. Some songs, like the title track, has a clean intro.
Yes.
Other songs just punch you in the face. I try to mix it up and keep the dynamics, varied, so it keeps it interesting for us in the band and hopefully for the listener as well.
No, that was tremendous. It reminded me of what was Hot for Teacher, particularly with the drums. But yours was like just pounding, like just sledgehammers. Choom, choom, choom. That was pretty cool. It's a cool song.
Oh, thanks.
I think that's my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, we like it. We like them all. We love them all. But yeah, that's definitely a solid tune for sure.
Joe, when you hear those drums kicking in, what are you doing bass wise? Are you thinking I have to model myself after what he's doing, or find a different melody line to work with the bass?
Well, there's a little of both. There are some parts in these songs where there really is nothing to do but follow the drums and the guitar. It's just like a power thing. It's really no choice. But as much as possible, I try to do my own thing. I'm hearing different things. Like I can play off the drums or off the guitar. It really depends on the song. And for me, this was all kind of new. Not just the recording. If you hear, Face Warning wasn't as heavy as this band.
Yeah.
And I never played in this heavy, so it was kind of a new style of bass for me too. I never played the really fast, heavy, thrashy type riffs. So it was a learning experience playing wise as well for me, which I really enjoyed. It's a lot of work with my on my right hand to get that speed. But it was cool to do. But yeah, you'll hear different things like in Eternal Screams. I'm not really playing what Glenn or off stuff. Kind of my Face Warning days coming back to me, where we're all doing weird progressive type parts. But like I said, some songs just called for driving.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Driving.
Yeah, and being a guitar player, I always felt the important role of being a metal bassist was the ambassador between the sonic drumming and the guitars. And it's the backbone to any band. And without it, I think you lose a lot, and the sound gets very thin and lifeless. What is it about the bass and that you feel that you bring to this band? You touched upon it a little bit in your earlier answer, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, sometimes it's just locking in with the drums. That's the most important part. The drums and the bass, really should lock in on many parts. But I also like to add a third dimension or a fourth dimension if you want to count the vocals, where I'm not following either one. And I did a lot of that, like I said, in the old face warning stuff. It called for the more progressive material. So I tried to incorporate as much of that as I could without getting away. There were some times where that was gone, and lock in with what the rhythm guitar was doing, and to make it as powerful as possible. But it was kind of good for me doing it this way, where I didn't have a time limit. Okay, you got to get the song done in 3 or 4 days because it took so long. Sometimes I had a month to work on one song because Shawn was busy doing something else at the time to tie it up. So I really got to sit down and listen to the song and imagine parts. It wasn't just I got to get something down on paper real quick because of the deadline. So it allowed me to be a little more creative on some parts that called for it, which is really cool.
Got it. Shawn, you talked about that you're writing a lot of the songs or most of the songs. Are you coming up with the guitar part? Do you play guitar also?
Oh yeah, I've been playing since I was 15. So
really?
yeah, I've
When
been
did
writing.
You switch to drums.
I started drums when I was 13. I mean, honestly, I just started playing. Glenn was playing, and I love it so much. I just started playing really just for fun, and I was a remedial player in terms of I don't have the chops that Glenn does, certainly, but I learned real quick as in my late teens that I kind of had the knack for what I think I had the knack for writing original material. So I started doing that in our high school band. I think I was 16 or whatever, and we already had 1 or 2 original songs, and I wrote them. It was not weird or for any of us. We're just like, here, I got this riff or I got these riffs, oh, that's good. Let's, I mean, look, we've been doing this for almost 30 years, and Glenn and I talked about right away. It's like, look, you're doing all this work in the studio. You're the engineer, the producer. You get Pro Tools tracks and, Joe and all this stuff now. And, there's so much work involved in that mixing process. He did all that stuff. I said, let me help. I have a knack for writing songs. So let me write most of the material, which to this day, I do that. And Glenn always makes it his own. He always changes a riff or adds something, or, hey, let's do a mod, and let's do half of the verse in this key, and then let's do a mod for the second. Oh, that's a good idea. So Glenn's really good with that. He's good with helping me arrange things. Let's cut that third verse in half. It's getting too long, or let's double it. Yeah. All that kind of stuff. But primarily, yeah. I mean, I've been playing guitar since I was 15 years old. So it's just always worked well, because otherwise Glenn would just be doing everything, and I'll just play drums. Glenn, you do the rest. It's like, to me, it wasn't fair, and I wanted to contribute as well. So
the only drummer I could think of who does that is Charlie Benante.
Yeah, for metal, yeah, Charlie been doing that for forever.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know of many others.
No.
But hey, look, it's not a big deal I don't find it to be that big of a deal. I mean, I'm a drummer who happens to play guitar and write some songs. I mean, it's beneficial, you know what I mean? And we don't have an ego about it. If I send something to Glenn and he doesn't like it, he's like, it sounds stock, and I'll say, okay, I don't get butthurt by it, because it's just notes on the guitar, man. Here's some other notes. Do you like these? You know what I mean? Do you like this riff? They're just good. I don't, you know what I mean? Some band, you get, oh, you don't like my song. It's like, dude, it's just music, man. We're not curing cancer here. We're just trying to write good music. And thankfully, Joe and Henning and Glenn, we all are kind of on the same musical path. So,
that leads up nicely to my next question, as far as to both of you guys. What excites you about metal now, and what inspires you now, metal-wise, for playing it?
Well, I mean, I can speak for myself, and I know Shawn too. We've always been about 12 years old, tracking down on the bus to the city to get the newest Saxon record and the newest issue of Kerrang. And Shawn and Glenn were the same way, and I imagine Henning too. I mean, I'm almost 60. I'm almost 60 years old, but I've really been a little metalhead since I was 13 years old. So it's in my blood. And same with Shawn and Glenn, I'm sure. So and nowadays, I don't listen to. I listen to some metal, but I listen to a varied selection of music, alternative, Americana, folkish, country stuff, blues, a lot of blues, and everything. But when it comes down to it, I'm really just a metalhead. So that's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's in my blood.
How about you, Shawn?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I mean, I think if you're the real deal, if you're a real fan of metal, whether you're a musician or not, for me, you love it for life. I mean, I still get excited about Judas. I'm talking to Andy Sneap. I said, dude, when is the freaking new Judas Priest album going to be done? Because he's mixing the record and working on the record producer. It's like, come on, dude. It's when can we hear some new music and stuff? I still get excited about it. It's a different time. Certainly when we were younger in the 80s and stuff, that was such an exciting time because so many new genres were being exposed, with the advent of speed metal, progressive metal, which is right up, Fate's Warning and Queensryche. I mean, that was a huge thing for me, listening to that music, going, what is this? Is so friggin' wacky and awesome. It's like all these weird time changes and, the acrobat, John Arch is still one of my favorite singers ever to grace the earth. I mean, just his way his melodies were unreal to me. I mean, I still don't think anybody does melodies like John Arch did on those Fate's Warning records. But again, to your point, I mean, I get as excited now for new releases or writing our own, writing our music as I did when I was in my early 20s, doing, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. I look at our age. I mean, why would we even be doing this? If we're wanting to try to make money, we wouldn't be putting out this kind of music. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we love it. And, we still get excited about, I get, when Joe would send bass tracks back, it's like, that's one of the things I love about Joe. It's like, he's putting his stamp on it and he knows where to put more stuff in there and when not to, depending on the guitar riff. So he knows when he can get a little more progressive and wacky and, and when not to. And that's really important instead of just friggin' blazing all the time and doing all these wacky things. He plays for the song, but he also knows, when he can really put some different flavors on songs and when not to. And so for us to hear that was fun for me. It's like, wow, he did this. Like, he did certain things that I would never even have thought of.
Yeah.
Because Glenn always sends a guide. It's not even a guide bass track. He just puts down a bass track just so it sounds more full. When he does a guitar track, he'll just whip down a bass track literally in one take or two takes,
Right.
Just so when Joe gets it or when I get it, it sounds like, it sounds cool. And then Joe just does his thing and it's exciting. We still get very excited about this. So,
yeah,
which is great at our age.
No, that's very true. I really, to your earlier,
The other thing that keeps
sorry.
So the other thing that keeps me in the metal scene, so to speak, is I have a son. He's 26, 27 years old. And he's a drummer, and he plays in his own band. They have albums out. He tours. A band called Limbs. So he introduces me to a lot of newer type metal that I would never even think to listen to. It's more. He's probably getting at it makes horror or that type of genre.
Yeah.
So I listen to a lot of those bands as him, and he's always playing them. Did I lose you?
No, I got you. You're still here.
Okay, I lost my picture, but so that kind of keeps me in the loop too, as far as metal and stuff, which is really cool.
I think you're like
Joe is so metal he can't do interviews with light.
Yes.
The lights just turn off because they can't handle it. He's just too metal.
He's too metal.
That's freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
All right.
Let's do a seance.
I don't know what happened.
There you go.
Get back, though.
Well, listen, guys, I
That's
want to
awesome.
thank you so much for your time. It was a fascinating interview, and it was so nice to talk to you guys. Tremendous musicians, and I wish you the best with this album and with this band. And I hope when you do tour, I'll be there to support you guys. I want to come and see you play, and I'll take pictures, do a review. So hopefully you do something in New York, New Jersey soon.
Thanks for having us, man. We really
awesome.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a great interview, guys.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Robert.
Thank you.